Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. Today's recipe is Rosemary Focaccia. For those of you that don't know what focaccia means, it's basically a flat oven-baked Italian bread, and it has a texture very much like a pizza. So in some places it is actually called as pizza bianca. This bread can be used as a side dish or can be used as a sandwich bread. It's a very simple recipe, requires very few ingredients. However, it does take very long to make this bread, and you will see why. So without wasting any more time, let's get started. So to make this bread, you need 2 cups of all-purpose flour. You can use bread flour if you have. If not, all-purpose flour will do the trick. 1 cup of warm water. 1 tablespoon of sugar, 2 teaspoons of dry yeast, 2 teaspoons dried Italian herbs, 1 tablespoon salt, a few sprigs of fresh rosemary, and some olive oil. Notice I haven't measured the olive oil over here because we will be using olive oil just to grease the pans. So let's get started. Step 1, to the warm water, you're going to add 1 tablespoon of sugar. Mix it up. Make sure the sugar dissolves. To this, we're going to add the 2 teaspoons of dry yeast. Now we are going to mix and let this sit for about 10 to 12 minutes. Until you start seeing a foamy surface on the top, which means the yeast will be active and we can proceed to the next step. In about 10 to 15 minutes, you'll see that the water, sugar and yeast mixture becomes foamy. To this, we're going to add our flour, 2 cups of all-purpose flour or bread flour, whichever you have taken. Teaspoons of Italian seasoning and the salt. And we will mix this with a fork and bring it all together. If it's easier, you can skip the fork and just use your hand to bring the dough together. You will notice that the texture of this dough is very sticky. That's exactly how it needs to be. If for some reason your flour or the dough turns out dry, you can add and adjust the water quantity. And you shouldn't have a flowy dough, but if for some reason you do get a flowy dough, then you can add more flour and make it this consistency. It should be pretty sticky. Now we are going to transfer this to a well-greased container and keep it away. So we're going to take a separate container, add some olive oil, and then grease the bottom as well as all the sides properly. Now we will transfer the dough to this container. It's well oiled. Once the dough has been transferred to another container, drizzle some more olive oil on top of it. Generously spread it. Next, we're going to cover this container with a warm, damp cloth and keep this container away in a warm spot for about 15 to 18 hours. That's how long it will take for the dough to rise, and then we will pick it back up after about 15 to 18 hours. It's been about 14 hours, so let's check on our dough. Looks good, it's risen quite a bit. So the next step, we will be taking the dish or the pan that we will actually be baking the bread in and then greasing it well with olive oil. Once the pan is well greased, we are going to transfer the dough into this pan. Once you have transferred it, spread it along well, evenly across the pan. And now we're going to let this sit for another 2 or 3 hours. Like I mentioned before, it's a very easy dish with very few ingredients, but there's a lot of wait time. This time you don't need to cover it. We're just going to leave it uncovered and set it aside for another 3 hours or so. In 3 hours, this is how the dough will rise. Go ahead and drizzle a little bit more olive oil on the top. And then use your fingers to poke some holes. Just random holes, doesn't have to be very precise. Just want to remove all the air bubbles. Then sprinkle some salt on the top. Some dried Italian seasonings. And then finally garnish with some rosemary. If you'd like, you can add other garnishings like tomatoes or olives, but I am just using rosemary. Once it's garnished, this is ready to be baked. The oven has been preheating. We are going to bake this at 410 degrees Fahrenheit for about 35 minutes. The focaccia will be ready in about 35 minutes. Do wait for another 30 minutes for it to cool down before you can cut it and serve it. I hope you all enjoyed this video. Do try this recipe and let me know if you like this focaccia bread. And don't forget to like, share and subscribe to my channel. Thank you for watching.